anywhere in Kenya, any single day from Sunday to Saturday, the rally will be full of a lot of people who are unemployed, and most of them are along the roadside across the country, from Migori to Meru, all the way to Mombasa. So you see, the young people, in terms of political participation and civic engagement, have come up with the tribeless, partyless, fearless finance bill explosion that we saw in 2024. You saw that 63 of them died. More than 1,700 were arrested during that consciousness and rising. And they used technology to do civic education, to conduct X-Space rallies with 70,000, 120, 140,000 participants at one go. But the study also tells us that even as the young people are using technology, it is not available to both equally. Young men are more accessible and spend more time on technology for political participation than women. And that's what you find there in terms of 77% youth rely on social media, but young women face barriers to digital political spaces. Limited access to WhatsApp, political discussions excluded from consciousness-raising spaces in the informal ecosystem. Let's go to the next slide quickly. No. Let's please go back for just half a minute. Please go back. The conclusions you are seeing at the bottom is that political exclusion of young people and the vulnerability is what is driving the goon economy recruitment. This is a terminology that was not here 3 years ago. It is now here because governors, MCAs, members of parliament, senators, all have goons who are on a payment scheme around them across the country. And you've seen it practically in every county. The highest is Kakamega, where there are more than 349, these people who are called enforcement officers, and you wonder what is being enforced, in Kakamega. So let's go to the next slide quickly. So the next thematic area is persons with disability, which compounds the exclusion that we are talking about, and this is a topic that has been going on here since yesterday. The barriers to political participation include 62% face information barriers, face physical barriers, so information barriers, physical barriers, stigma barriers, and financial barriers, 41%. You can see how this compounds their political participation in governance matters. So this even is more compounded when it comes to young women with disabilities who face multiple overlapping barriers for them to participate in the political and governance areas. Gender, disability, age, and economic status. That is the matrix and the combination you are seeing on your right there. So that constitutional rights without implementation is actually the underlying problem. That these things are provided for in the Constitution, in the law, but the government is not doing much to ensure that the constitutional requirements can be operationalized, and therefore rights can be able to be exercised. Let's go to the next slide, please. Coercive practices and voter manipulation. Economic recruitment as systemic exploitation. So for a quick summary of that chapter, you go to poverty to recruitment pipeline. Is a whole pipeline which is ending near gang enrollment. So there is 5,000, government has a lot of schemes for young people, call this scheme, call this fund, call that. But you hear that 50,000 is for 20 young people who have formed a group. Now, most of them use that to do either betting, or others pay Sukuma Wiki madeni at the local kiosk. So the 50,000 just flies like that. But then it puts them in the mshwaris and the borrowing, a lot of these borrowing whatevers. And that is what pushes them to the goon economy, goon enrollment as a political tool, and providing informal security. If we had time, I would have asked 3 of you to tell you what they have seen. Even when you are a pastor, you are a bishop, and you are doing a funeral, and then you see people tearing down tents and everything, and you're asking what's going on. Ama ni mimi peke yangu najua hiyo? Do you see these people when they come to your activities? Even when they are coming to church, isn't it? Yes, even when they are coming to church. Which then normalizes voter bribery, which is averagely 200 to 500 per vote, which entrenches transactional politics as a norm, poverty, vulnerability, nexus, and political actors as both perpetrators and pretend critics. So you know what that word means there. And so violence and coercion is what we are seeing, that young people are dying when they have been hired to participate, for those who have been hired to participate, and it is what is driving young people's involvement, not to participate substantially. Like today, one group is going to participate in raising grievances, another group is hired to fight them and overrun them. So that's what we are calling coercive practices and voter manipulation. Let's go to the next slide. Misinformation and public discourse. WhatsApp as the primary misinformation vector. These groups are unmoderated. They spread false information. They are difficult to trace the sources. Rapid amplification, targeting vulnerable population, elderly, rural communities particularly are affected by this. AI is only amplifying the propaganda that is on these platforms, where WhatsApp is the most carrier as a vector of this misinformation. Information ecosystem erosion, so that 77% of the youth rely on social media. Trust in independent media is at 48%. Media ownership concentration is in very few hands of very powerful people who are in government. They are in government, they have power, they own the media,